We have presidential candidate Jeb Bush to talk about what he'd like to do in the Middle East. We've got some other things, but it's anything but a happy new year so far on Wall Street. Stocks got off to their worst start in 8 years on Monday. But oil prices, interestingly enough, have stayed relatively low because of the surplus, and despite all the turmoil that's going on in the Middle East.
Financial markets around the world have been hit hard in the first couple of days of 2016. So what's behind the sell-off? Well, as Dale Hurd reports, many people are pointing the finger at China.
Poor manufacturing reports from China and the U.S. suggesting slow growth around the world were among the triggers for the stock market sell-off that started the new year. Global markets remained weaker today, even as China's benchmark stock index stabilized after plunging nearly 7% Monday. Trading was temporarily halted by new curbs that kick in if markets move too fast. U.S. stocks took a pounding on the first day of the year, with the Dow closing down 276 points after falling nearly 470 points during the day. The drop is causing some to wonder if 2016 will be the year the bull market ends. Investment manager Tim Anderson says investors were spooked by fears about China's market.
When their market was extremely volatile in the summer, they put a 6-month ban of selling stocks on very large holders, you might say, and that ban is set to come off very shortly.
The sell-off was also pinned on Chinese manufacturing data that shrank for a 10th month. But many experts are still optimistic. This German stock analyst says, once we leave the first few weekdays behind us, I'm certain that the German DAX will gain significantly again this year, because we still have low interest rates. Tensions in the Middle East also have investors nervous. Saudi Arabia severed diplomatic relations with Iran over the weekend in a dispute over the Saudis' execution of a Shiite cleric. Despite those concerns, oil prices are still staying low. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, in my humble opinion, I believe that oil prices will spike. There is a glut of them. The tankers are full. The tanks are almost to capacity. But it won't be long. And if China is having a problem, and it's one of our big customers for crude, then it won't be long before the price of oil. But the forecast, my feeling is this thing is going to escalate. The Sunni-Shia divide in the Muslim world is going to exacerbate, and I just cannot believe that somebody isn't going to try to blow up the oil refineries and the oil fields in Saudi Arabia. And, of course, the Iranian oil depot at Harj Island will be something that will be in flames as well. So that whole area could be in flames, and if that's the case and the Straits of Hormuz are locked up, who knows what's going to happen to the oil of the world. Well, in other news, the president is intent on putting through a so-called progressive program. And he said, despite what Congress does, I'm going to take executive action on gun control. John Jessup has that.
Pat, that's right. The president's new measures are aimed at closing what's called the gun show loophole. Still, President Obama admits the move would have a limited effect.
This is not going to solve every violent crime in this country. It's not going to prevent every mass shooting. It will potentially save lives.
Now, critics say his proposal wouldn't have stopped major gun attacks in recent years and argue that he's overstepping his authority. Republican presidential candidates promise to repeal his actions if they're elected. Well, President Ronald Reagan used to say government isn't the solution, it's the problem. 30 years later, Americans apparently agree. A new survey from Gallup shows that in 2015, Americans considered government the biggest problem facing the country today. 16% rank government as the top problem in the nation, with the economy at number 2. And Pat, Americans also rank government as the biggest problem last year in 2014.
Well, believe me, they've just set a new record of federal regulations put in place. It is choking and strangling the economy. And this, of course, is what the progressives want. They want government to run everything. And our people are smart enough to realize government is the problem. It isn't the solution.